well, yesterday it came through that they were proposing a 114 game season as opposed to the 82 game that was offered earlier in the season. Major League Baseball players ignored claims by clubs that they would need to take additional pay cuts, instead proposing they receive a far higher percentage of salaries and a commitment to a longer schedule as part of a counteroffer to start the coronavirus delayed season. Players had proposed a 114 game regular season on Sunday, up from 82 games. In the management's office, a person familiar with the plan told the Associated Press, done that way, if they do the 114 game season, then the World Series would be wouldn't be played until probably on Christmas Day. The person spoke on condition of anonymity because no details were announced. Opening day would be June 30th, and the regular season would end on October 31st. Originally, that's how it would have been. Nearly 5 weeks after the September 27th conclusion, the MLB's proposal stuck two from the season's original schedule. The union offered scheduling flexibility to include more doubleheaders as baseball cramps the games into 123 days, leaving little room for days off this year. MLB's proposal Tuesday would lower the 2020 salaries from about $4 billion to approximately $1.2 billion. The union's offer would have salaries total about $2.8 billion. The plan was given to MLB during an 80-minute digital meeting among Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred, and Deputy Commissioner Dan Halem, and Union Head Tony Clark and Union Chief Negotiator Bruce Meyer. The meeting was contentious, a person familiar with it said. Like MLB, the union would increase postseason teams from 10 to 14, but unlike MLB, the players' proposal would extend the postseason about a month past its usual end. MLB has said that it is worried about a second wave of the coronavirus once August hits. While management proposed an expanded postseason for 2020 only, the players proposed new events that would increase revenue, such as a postseason or off-season All-Star game, or the Home Run Derby, to wear broadcast microphones in the field and participate in television programming away from the parks. They also asked for $100 million more in salary to be advanced during the resumption of spring training for next year, as a player would receive about 70% of his salary, or $114, under the union plan. The union and MLB agreed on March 26 that players would receive prorated shares of salaries, which is part of the deal, in which if the season is scraped each player was guaranteed a service time for 2020, matching what the player earned in 2019. The union also has guaranteed $170 million in salary advances. While the union says salaries were dealt with them, the agreement covered only games in regular season ballparks and with fans. The deal called for good faith negotiations for games and without fans or at neutral sites. MLB told the union that players would get 89% of revenue in an 82-game schedule with prorated salaries, and clubs would combine to lose $640 for each additional game. The union has questioned this for called for spring training to resume in mid-June and for the MLB season to start around the 4th of July. The club proposal would take the prorated salaries and reduce them again on a sliding scale. Those at the $563,500 minimum would get about 47%, and those at the top, which are led by Mike Trout and Garrett Cole, would get at least $36 million, which are getting $36 million, would receive about less than 23% of their money. Management proposed a $200 million of salaries would be contingent on the postseason's completion. Hold on a second here. There we go. All players would have the right to opt out of the season under the union plan. Those who met qualifications for high risk or reside with a person who qualifies as high risk would receive salary and major league services. Others who opt out would receive major league service, no salary. If the postseason is not held because of a second wave, the union plan calls for $100 million in salary to be deferred with interest, payable in November of 2021 and November of 2022. Only players whose original 2020 salaries were $10 million or more would be subject to having more money deferred. The union estimates high payroll teams would have up to $7 million in the payoff relief rule, the person said. Yep.